It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. Welcome to Morning Marketing Machine, and I have a special guest today. So Tim Fitzpatrick is a business owner with an expertise in marketing and business growth. He has 20 plus years of experience with a passion for developing and growing businesses. So this served him so well in operating and managing a wholesale and distribution company that company grew an average of 60% a year before being acquired in 2005. He since then started Rialto Marketing in 2013 and has been helping service businesses simplify marketing so they can grow with less stress. So thank you so much for coming on today, Tim.
Thank you, Douglas. Happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
Oh yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm always very intrigued whenever somebody who's into marketing gets on. So this will be a lot of fun here today.
I can talk about marketing all day long. So,
All right. So for people that may not know about you, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in all this and kind of like what led you up to today?
sure. Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey got started right out of college. I wouldn't say I was ever one of those entrepreneurs that I was ate and selling baseball cards or opened up a lemonade stand. That was the last thing on my mind at that point. And even when I got out of college, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And my dad had been an entrepreneur for a long time, and he had started a distribution company about a year prior that was related to one of the other companies that he had. And I said, look, I don't know what I want to do. Let me help you. He had no employees for the distribution company at that point. And I said, let me help you for the summer. Well, that was that. I got hooked. I mean, I just loved it. I was soaking up information. I was learning all kinds of stuff. I loved the business. We were selling home theater equipment, distributed audio, that type of stuff. So what we were selling was interesting. And yeah, I was hooked. And so I became the first full-time employee, became a partner in that company. I managed it on a day-to-day basis. And, over 10 years, we, like you said, grew about 60% a year. We expanded to 3 locations, and then we ended up selling. And after that, I worked for the company that bought us for about 3 years. And then I got out of that. I transitioned. I got into real estate, into residential real estate. I'd always been interested in it and figured, hey, why not? Let's jump into it, do it now. That was 2010, so we all know what the real estate market was like at that point. But there's opportunity in every market. I started door knocking people that were in foreclosure to say, hey, I can help you. And I started doing business that way. But I realized, that business put me out of my comfort zone almost every day. So I expanded my comfort zone a lot. But I didn't enjoy doing it. And I just reached a point where I said, man, I can't keep doing this. What's the point in owning my business if I don't like it? So that's when I shifted gears and I got involved in marketing. I started thinking about what I loved about being in distribution. It was changing, it was dynamic, we were helping our clients grow. And, those same principles apply in marketing. And so that's what I started doing, and that's what I'm doing today. So that's it in a nutshell.
Very cool. So obviously you took a few things to kind of get where you love. So
Yes.
so I guess if you can kind of take me down a little bit in terms of the marketing side of things. So what goes into that process in terms of the learning part of it? Because there's so many people that hear the term marketing or anything like that, and they're kind of like, well, like what goes into all of that? Like I don't even know where to start with something along those lines. Like, so if you're coming at it from like you're in college and then you go down this whole rabbit hole and real estate and everything else, like what goes into that process?
Of just kind of determining what I want to do and how I want to do it.
That I guess first, yeah, we can go into that.
Yeah, it's I for me when I decided to get into marketing, I thought about what I loved about the distribution business, which when I was in the distribution business, it felt like I never worked because I loved what I was doing. It was so much fun. And so I thought about the different aspects of that I enjoyed and thought that marketing, there's a lot of similarities there. And frankly, I was running that business day to day, so I knew what it was like to operate sales, marketing, and so I knew that I could do it. But it certainly marketing had changed a lot because I was when I got in distribution, that was the mid to late 90s. Marketing, online marketing at that point was a website. Now, forget it. There's so many different marketing channels. And like you mentioned, it's marketing can be overwhelming. I mean, people are battling information overload when it comes to marketing, and they just get overwhelmed. They don't even know where to start. And honestly, when I initially started Rialto, we were focused on a very specific niche within marketing. We were selling mobile applications. Mobile apps were hot at that point, and I was like, man, there's an opportunity here. And so I was focused initially on that aspect of it. And 2.5, 3 years in, there were some changes with Apple and their publishing guidelines that got me to the point where I was like, oh my God, my business is like at the whim of the policies of Apple and Google, and this is not a place I want to be. So I decided to shift at that point. And actually, there's a lot of parallels there to what we were talking about before we went live with e-commerce and Amazon. Amazon's a great place to start selling your products and services, but they could shut your business down tomorrow if you don't have other channels that are where you're driving business. And that's what I realized in the mobile app space. I was like, I can't do this. I need to shift gears. And that's when I shifted into more comprehensive marketing services where we could basically be an outsourced marketing department for our clients and a single point of contact to help them drive their marketing forward. And we've been doing that for about the last 4 or 5 years. So, but I don't know. I've always been one of those people that, even if I don't know everything, I'm just going to jump in with both feet and learn it and make course corrections along the way. So I've never been afraid of trying something new.
Very cool. And obviously, yeah, we were talking about the Amazon side of it, and that's one thing I'm very, very adamant about is you can definitely have a lot of success with Amazon, but it is great in terms of understanding the marketing aspects. But one of the things I know that a lot of people have said to me when they've talked about the idea of marketing is they don't really know how to start. Like if they're coming from an e-commerce background,
Yeah.
I just hear this as a big general overall term. You got to get better at marketing, but like, what exactly does that mean? Kind of thing.
Yes. So
What would you recommend for somebody that's kind of like, all right, I'm in e-commerce and I want to get started, but I don't really know the first thing in terms of what I need to do?
To me, marketing success starts with the fundamentals. So the fundamentals in any discipline, I don't care what it is, they don't change. They're the same today as they were 50 years ago, and they're going to be the same 50 years from now. So when it comes to the marketing fundamentals, I call them the marketing strategy trilogy. You have to know who your target market is. Who are they? How are you going to serve them? Second thing is you have to have really clear, engaging messaging to that market. You can't create great messaging until you know who you're trying to reach. Then you got to have great messaging to help you stand out and engage them. And then the third part of that is you have to have a plan of how you're going to get that message in front of those people. To me, that's what marketing all boils down to. And if you skip those steps, inevitably you're going to run into problems. You're going to waste time, you're going to waste money. And what most businesses do is they end up just throwing tactics up against a wall like spaghetti on a wall and hope that it sticks. And when it doesn't work, they're like, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Or, I tried that. That didn't work. Social media is not working for me, or SEO is not working. And inevitably, it's not that it's the wrong tactic. It's the right tactic. They're just using it at the wrong time. So you got to start with the fundamentals because those are the foundation that you can build from. And we were talking before we went live about, messaging. I mean, a lot of e-commerce companies, their messaging doesn't say anything. It doesn't convince people, why should I buy from you, or why should I buy your product rather than somebody else? And they're really not buying the product for the product. They're buying the product for the end result that it can give them. And our messaging needs to focus on that aspect of it because that's what's going to get people to buy.
And getting back to what you were saying here, you're talking about the idea of the plan as well. So if someone's getting started, like I've always thought of it that same way you do in terms of it is really the end result. You're not selling the widget, you're selling what the widget can do for them.
Yeah.
But like if someone's getting started with something and they're like, all right, so it's going to give them this benefit, it's not about my product. Like how would they dial in when they're getting started Like what would be a good starting point for that plan? So say they've done hopefully they've done the research, right? Then they know more about who their ideal customer is,
Yeah.
and they've got some value props in place. You would hope. Like how would they come up with some type of plan in terms of, all right, this is what
Yeah. So I recommend people use a 90-day marketing plan. So we use a 90-day marketing plan for our business. We use it for our clients. The reason I like 90 days is it's long enough to see whether things are working, but it's not so far out there where it just becomes overwhelming. Sometimes you could spend tens of thousands of dollars on a year or 2 year, 3 year, marketing plan. They're too confusing. It's just we need to simplify things, and most of the time plans like that just go into a desk drawer. And frankly, if you had done that in January of this year, you would have burned it in March. So, you know, 90 days, it's like a 90-day sprint. And I keep six things in there. It's like, who's your target market? What's your goal? And my 90-day goal is certainly something that's going to help me get to my 1 year goal or my 3 year goal or whatever it may be. I got to know what my budget is and what my resources are. How much time I have or how much staff time do I have to dedicate this, and how much money can I spend is going to dictate what I can focus on, right? Then I've got my current marketing plan. What am I doing? Where am I starting from? Because you can't determine what you need to do to get to where you want to go until you know where you're starting from. It's like your GPS. I can't tell it how to get to. Can't tell me how to get to the airport until I tell you where I'm starting from. And when we look at the various marketing channels that are out there, to me, there's only 8 marketing channels, right? You've got your fundamentals or your strategy, my ideal clients, my messaging. I've got my website. I've got my content, my creating content marketing of any kind, my search engine optimization. I've got social media. I've got email marketing, paid advertising, and then offline marketing. So speaking, direct mail, could be strategic partner relationships, those types of things. At this phase, if you don't have a plan, which a lot of people don't, and that's okay, all you want to at least do is just outline, hey, what have I done and what do I continue to do in each of those channels? And then in that 5th step is, what am I going to focus on in the next 90 days? Put it down on paper and just write it down. These are my marching orders for the next 90 days. And when you do that, it helps eliminate all this distraction, so that when, next week you see somebody saying, oh, you've got to be on TikTok, or, you need to do influencer marketing on Instagram, you can come back and have the discipline to say, you know what? That sounds like an interesting idea, but it's not on my plan right now. So I'm just going to put it over here and I'll come back to it. Because if you constantly get distracted, you're never going to make traction. And then that last step is, what metrics am I going to track? The metrics are going to help you determine whether the actions you're taking are having an impact or not. And then at the end of those 90 days, you just go back and look at what worked, what didn't. Are we going to double down on certain things? Are we going to make some shifts? And you create your next 90-day marketing plan, and that's it. You just wash, rinse, and repeat every 90 days. And I think if most people did that, they could look back after a year and go, damn, we accomplished way more than we've ever accomplished. So I think that's where you need to start. From an e-commerce standpoint, you're online. So you got to start with those fundamentals. And then I think the hub of everything you do is your website. You have to have a great website. If you don't have a good website, you're never going to be successful in e-commerce. And I don't think you're going to be successful long-term in any business, because everything you do from a marketing perspective sends people back to your website.
And as we were talking about before, even if if you're selling on, say, your website and on Amazon as well,
Mm-hmm.
like 95% of the time, unless there's something that differentiates your product or your brand from everybody else, they're just going to go on Amazon and buy it, even if they like your product.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes back to the idea of, what are you doing to differentiate? What do you have to offer that's going to make them want to go to your website? Versus,
Yeah.
so.
From an e-commerce standpoint, it's like, how can we make it easy to buy from us? Because so many people are so used to just jumping on Amazon and getting everything they need, and it's on my doorstep the following day or 2 days later. You got a lot to compete with there. So, you have to figure out how you can position it and make your value proposition strong enough where it's going to encourage people to just buy directly from you.
Yeah, and what I really liked about like the idea you had in terms of the 90-day plan, it comes through a lot of the same ways that there was a book I read. You know the 12-week year at all?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, it's a lot of the same principles. Like they do it. It's the same idea that there's 12 weeks, and then you're accomplishing specific tasks in your business that are going to move the needle to whatever your goal is. So it's the same kind of thing as you're just talking about.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you're bringing that up. It gives you that sense of urgency. It gives you something that's trackable, so you
Yeah.
can actually look at it and see, did I accomplish my goal? Or and it also gives you the idea of like, well, did I execute,
Yeah.
or was it on me because I didn't execute the plan? So it's really,
As we're talking here, it's like there are so many things. Like if you get into e-commerce, you may be thinking, God, how am I going to compete with Amazon? But I think the thing you have to think about is what's your niche and how can you position yourself so that it's so much more attractive to buy from you than it is to buy from Amazon. I want to say the name of it's Chewy. Have you ever heard of Chewy, the pet supply
oh,
company?
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I think Petco or PetSmart bought them for like, I don't know, it was billions of dollars a few years ago. But when they initially got into the market, they're selling pet supplies. Well, okay, great. I can buy that on Amazon. But their differentiator was their customer service.
mm-hmm.
You know, I could pick up the phone 24/7, talk to somebody, and they could help recommend what I needed to buy for my pet based on my specific needs. You're never going to get that from Amazon. Amazon doesn't do that. So they figured out this value added way to create a niche in the market that differentiates them. And guess what? Enough people said, you know what? I love that. And they bought and they got dialed in and they got purchased, So, another great example too. I mean, I play golf, not quite as much as I used to, but I was in the market for a new driver a couple of years ago. And, I didn't want to go into the store to do it. I just didn't have the time. So I went online and I'm on the TaylorMade website and they have this interactive chat widget where I can talk to a golf pro about they got like 10, 12, 15, I can't even remember how many different drivers on their website, different shafts. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell driver I need. Mm-hmm. Well, there's an interactive chat right there. I jump on, I'm talking to a pro, he's asking me the right questions, I'm giving him the information, he goes, this is the driver you need.
Right.
Here you go. And then I bought it. I'm never going to get that kind of interaction from Amazon. Mm-hmm. So even though there's 800-pound gorillas in every market, there are always ways for us to figure out how can I carve out my niche within this market and add value to people in a way that they're not currently getting it.
Yeah. That's where it really does come down to the idea of just solving problems for people.
Yes.
And if you can identify a niche, and that's why, like, I always say to anybody when they're getting started in e-commerce, like you got to identify your niche. You got to start to identify what problems people are having, and then if you can give them a solution for that, then it doesn't matter who your competitors are. You're going to create that blue ocean where
Yes.
where now you're the only one that they're going to think of, and it doesn't matter if Amazon's there.
Yeah. Yeah, not at all. And yeah, they're just not going to be able to. There's certain things Amazon does really well, and there's certain things that they're never going to do well. So there are always going to be opportunities there.
So since I was bringing up the idea of books here, are there any that you would recommend from a marketing perspective for people looking to get going with that?
Oh gosh, from a marketing perspective, one of the things I talked about was messaging. The messaging framework that we use for clients is built off of StoryBrand.
Okay.
If you're familiar with StoryBrand, and Donald Miller has multiple books, but the one that specifically talks about the messaging framework is building a StoryBrand, if I remember the title correctly. And that's a great book. It's a good read that'll dig you into that and give you an overview of what it is and why it's important to use. So that's always a good one. The other ones that I really like are the books from Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, and he's got Gosh, I think he has 3 or 4 books now, but .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, and Traffic Secrets. Those are all really good books. And the thing that I love about his books is it's all, I mean, certainly it's based on his experience and he's been incredibly successful, but they're broken down into frameworks, into models that he knows works. And I don't care whether it's marketing or anything else. The successful models and frameworks that we need to be successful are out there. We just need to know where to go to find them. And so his books are great.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people do love about Russell and the way he talks about things is he focuses so much on the idea of story, like StoryBrand does as well.
Yes.
Like I can't tell you the amount of times I've read something or I've listened to something or whatever it is, and like everyone either raves about it or they talk about how it's got such great information, but you're bored off your ass.
Yeah.
It's not a compelling story the way that it's being talked about.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that Russell does really well is that he tells a great story.
He does.
And that's one of the things that I think people forget a lot of times when they're trying to put something together. And that's what, if you're looking at, say, the e-commerce side of it is work on that story part of it. Like that's how it can work really well. And that's why I think Russell does so well. And he also will break things down in a way that basically like my 7-year-old kind of would understand it, kind of a thing, right?
Yes. Right. One of the things I say about marketing all the time is it's so easy to overcomplicate it. And if you do that, it just becomes so difficult to figure out where things are going wrong. And frankly, it becomes overwhelming. And one of the things that I've heard Russell say multiple times is, look, most of my funnels have, 5-6 steps in them. Yes, can we create these really complicated funnels that it's like, if you do this, then you're going to go here. And if you do that, you're going to go here. Well, if you're having problems in a funnel like that, there's too many steps. You're just going to have such a hard time diagnosing where things are breaking down. But if you keep things simple, it's so much easier to figure out, okay, well, this isn't working. It's right here. Keep things simple, because otherwise you're just going to run into problems over and over again.
Definitely. I can't tell you the amount of times. I think it's honestly something in the way we are as humans is that we want to overcomplicate things because we think, oh, well, that's too simple. It's not going to work. But like I would venture to say probably like 70, 80, 90% of the time that works fine. You're making it way too complicated.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's something like simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's not easy to make things simple, but it can be done. And when you can really boil things down into their most simple form, that's really when they're going to be the most effective.
Definitely. So we're kind of transitioning a little bit here. One thing I did want to ask as well is obviously you talked a little bit about Rialto marketing. Within that, or could be outside of it as well. Like I talked about obviously 12-week year, and there's a book called One Thing where they talk about the most important.
Yes.
Thing, right?
Yep.
So what would you say right now is your most important thing that you're working on?
My most important thing is continuing to create more and more content. Content is starting to drive a lot of our leads and building more awareness for our brand, and that's my thing is getting content out there.
So how did you arrive at that being the most important?
Well, when the pandemic hit, I was doing a lot of speaking, and we were generating a lot of leads from that, and that shifted very quickly, obviously. So I had to figure out ways to, how am I going to continue to speak and continue to put content out there? And so that's how we shifted, and when the pandemic hit, we shifted. Some of our speaking was able to shift online, some of it wasn't, but we needed to continue to get content out there and build our brand and build our credibility, and content is one of the best ways to do that.
Very cool. So you brought up obviously the virus and everything that's gone on with that. This kind of goes back to, I guess, the mindset of humans in general, and I think honestly of business owners too, is that it's not really talked about, like I think, and honestly it should be, but
Yeah.
there are times that we're not in as high a state in terms of being able to work on business as we probably would like to be, for whatever reason, whether it was the virus or you're just not feeling it. You're feeling you're in that negative mindset. Anything along
Yeah.
those lines, and it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing of that don't think that it's just you and everybody else is perfect. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Of
Uh,
course.
so when that happens to you, when for whatever reason you're having a hard time actually getting work done, or you can't overcome some kind of a project that you're trying to get done and it's just not working. Like, what has helped you in those situations to overcome uh, uh, that time in your life?
Yeah. One of the things that I always try to do is when I'm feeling overwhelmed like that or I'm feeling stuck is identifying what the next measurable step I can take is. Because I think it's so easy as an entrepreneur to just, I got a 1 year goal and a 3 year goal, and you start to think about all the things you need to do to get there. It can become really, really overwhelming. That's another reason why that 90-day plan is so effective. It breaks things down into much more manageable chunks, and you know exactly what that next thing you need to do is. And so when I get stuck, that's usually where I start. The other thing too, like sometimes, we all hit roadblocks, and things happen, and a lot of times I just try to think back on, I'm worried about something. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here? And if I can identify what the worst thing is and get to a state of mind where, it's like, okay, this is the worst thing that's going to happen. I'm okay with that. Now, what are the things I can do to not let that happen? And those are the actions I focus on taking.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it also goes back to one of my mentors. What he talked about when you're trying to figure out plans. I don't know if it was Charlie Munger or someone else that he referenced. The idea is that you want to invert actually. So if you're looking at a problem and like I don't know how to fix this, you actually look at it from the other perspective and say, how can I make this bad? How can I make sure this doesn't succeed? And I'm
Right.
just going to do the opposite. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a simple thing, but a lot of times it can have a huge effect on your emotions, your business, as well. And it can make a world of difference.
Yeah. I also think that, for entrepreneurs, speed of execution and being able to push through roadblocks quicker is really, really important. I think it's a key to success. And one of the things that has always helped me push through things faster is just accepting the fact that, change it's going to happen, and we can fight it or we can embrace it. And if we embrace it, we can push through these changes so much faster as they happen. I saw that with tons of people as we hit this pandemic. There were some people that literally had to shift their business overnight. And sure enough, you saw them shift like that. And it's like, damn, that's awesome. That is amazing. And then there's other people that they were just stuck. It was like their feet were in cement. And they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so it was really interesting to see how different people reacted and responded to this. And you could tell those people that had that same mindset where it's like, well, my cheese got moved. Now what am I going to do? And they just jumped right into action. And I think that helped those people that were able to do that move so much faster.
Yeah, and I think the other part to make sure that people understand too is that you're not in a race either. Because those people pivoted and they had success doesn't mean that you're in any worse position. And don't try and compare yourself to anybody else who did that.
No. Yeah.
Like you are at your own pace. It's your own race.
Yeah.
So if it takes you a little longer to get there, that's fine. It's never going to be as quick as you would like it to be for
Yeah.
anything you do.
Well, and it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people, but what we don't realize is, we're all different. We all have different goals. My goals aren't the same as somebody else's, so why should I compare myself to them? We need to figure out what we want, what's truly going to make us happy, and that's the only thing that matters. I'm going to tell my kids all the time. I always ask them, who whose opinion is most important about you? And they're always like, mine. That's it. Nobody else's opinion of you matters except your own. So focus on you, you do you, and move forward.
Yeah, definitely very cool. So you talked about a little bit earlier some of the obviously the issues that people have had to deal with. I would ask you if you can elaborate a little bit and tell about like say, the worst point in your either business or personal life, and ultimately what got you through it.
Yeah, I would tell you my lowest point from an entrepreneurial standpoint was right near the end of before I decided to get out of real estate. And I just, I'd gone from a high of growing a business quickly and selling that business to getting into something that I did not understand at all. I was putting myself outside of my comfort zone all the time. And I was making money, but I didn't feel like I was making as much money as I could and I was capable of. I was hitting roadblocks left and right. I was working harder than I ever had worked and not getting paid a lot for it. And I just wasn't enjoying it, and I mean, there were days I was, I'd wake up and I'm like, man, I'm just not motivated to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And that sucks. It's not a fun place to be. And so when I was in that place, I was fortunate that, I wasn't worried about like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my house payment this month? I mean, I wasn't in a situation like that, thankfully. But I was still kind of floundering and treading water, and that I didn't feel good. My confidence had been high and it had been taken down multiple notches. I was like, why am I not enjoying this? Why am I not having as much success as I know I can have? And I just took the time to think about, gosh, what have I learned from this experience? What mistakes have I made that I don't want to make in the future? And based on my past experiences in business, what should my next step be? What's going to be the next chapter here? And I just tried to take all of those things in and reference everything and just review it and just go, okay, based on what I have here, what should I do? And you're never going to have 100% of the information you need to move forward, but I've always felt like, if I've got 75 to 80% of what I need, then I've got what I need to make a decision that I can feel pretty confident in and move forward. And so, that's what I did. I moved forward, and like we've talked about, my journey with Rialto has not been perfect by any means. It's been a winding road, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not made to work for somebody else.
Well, and this gets back to the idea I've heard, like Tom Bilyeu is one of the people that brought it up that it resonated with me. But the idea that it's about more than just pursuing money or a paycheck or whatever it is. Like there has to be something behind it.
Yes.
But otherwise, I mean, you feel completely hollow inside, completely unfulfilled. It's not like it just looking at money just doesn't. It's not a life changing kind of thing.
Yes. And I would say, Douglas, when I was in the distribution business, I was very much focused on how much money can we make? How big can we grow this? How fast can we drive everything? And, as I've gotten older, my perspective on that has changed a lot more. And it's definitely moved more towards how can I create more significance and meaning with what I'm doing? How can we change our clients' life when they work with us? What can we do to really drive that meaning? Because long term, it's, I don't know, I can't remember where this stat came from, but I read something a while back and they said, like after like $75,000 a year in money, the rest of it doesn't really significantly change things for people. You have to find other things to create that significance. And so it's like, if you think about that, I mean, yeah, for $75,000 a year for some people is a lot of money, and for others it's not much at all. Um, and so when you reach that point where you're making enough, it's like you have to find other ways to make meaning.
Hmm. Yeah, so what would you say your purpose is?
My purpose is to have a positive, lasting impact on the people that I touch, whether that's personally or professionally. When I'm dead and gone, I want people to say, "Wow,
Hmm.
he did. Rialto did this, and this is what it allowed me to do, and how it changed my life." Or, hey, Tim did this. Knowing him allowed me to do this in my personal life, and I just want to help people have an impact. So if I can do that, I feel like my time on this earth has been well spent.
Very cool. So obviously you referenced kids before.
Yes.
This is a question that um, some people have very varied opinions on. What's a work-life balance to you?
That's a great question. I'm not quite sure work life balance exists. I think depending on where you are, there's things are always going to be a little out of balance. You may have to put more time into work based on where you are right now, um, and I think that just happens, and I think you have to be okay with that. But you have to understand when you push the balance more, whether it's towards personal or work. I think you have to understand the sacrifices that you're making to do that. And as long as you're okay with those, to me it shouldn't be a long-term thing, right? If I'm pushing too much in work and my personal life is suffering because of that long term, then that's not a good thing. So you do have to you have to understand what's happening, and make those course corrections. But sometimes you just have to go all in on certain things, and my personal life or my business may suffer a little bit because of that, but that's just part of the deal and part of the journey.
Yeah, I think some of it is dependent. Like my thoughts are it is dependent on you as a person, like where you're at in your life.
Yeah.
Are you single? Are you married? Do you have kids? What's your why? Like there's a lot that
Yes.
obviously goes into it, but ultimately I look at it. There is no such thing as a balance. There is basically you have to
Yes.
be immerse yourself at whatever it is you're doing for that period of time. So if
Yep.
you're working, then you're working for that specific period of time. But then when you're with your family, then everything else goes away. Like at that point, I
Yes.
look at it from the perspective, all right, work is done. I don't care. I don't care. There could be 5,000 fires at that point. I'm spending 3 hours with my family or whatever it is, and
Yep.
everything else matters. So your balance, it's a counterbalance, is the way I
Yep.
look at it. Like, because you can't. It gets back to the idea of you were talking about before. But like, you can't be all things to all people. You can't try and do five things at once. If you try and do that, you're in the way I look at it is you're not really going to be good at either your business or your family,
Yeah. I
depending on
think
what it is.
too, some of that is also having the self awareness
Mhm.
to know, it's like, okay, I'm doing my work stuff, I'm 100% focused. All right, now it's family. And you need to have that self awareness to catch yourself that if you are falling back into it, you're sitting at the kitchen table and your family's having a discussion and you're sitting there, eyes glazed over, thinking about work. You got to have the self awareness to go, you know what? Nope, snap out of it. Let's get into the present moment. And I mean, I'll tell you, that's something I've always, that I've struggled with, because I'm a very disciplined person, and I'm very focused. And it's hard for me to just say to myself, okay, no, it's time's off, get away from it, and live in the here and now.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's a lot of the business owner mentality, anyways. Like
Yeah.
we've got that condition in us. We're like, all right, I got this other thing I gotta focus on, or what's going on with it, or just a
Yes.
little bit longer, or whatever it is, right? You're always there's always going to be something else that
Yes, there
you
is.
want to work on, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so this was a question that I was a guest on my friend Mason's podcast, and he brought up this question, and I loved it so much I've kind of asked everybody since. So the question is, what's your definition of success?
Oh, that's a good one. And for me, it's here. Hold on. I'm gonna. My definition of success is a little bit longer than most people's. So I'm gonna pull it up and I'm gonna read it to you. So it's hold on. I'm almost there, Douglas. It's because to me, it's success is all about being happy. It's like I've made money, and I think when you get to a point where you make enough money, you realize that money doesn't completely buy you happiness. There's a lot of other things that come into it. So for me, success is the ability to happily live my life the way I want to live it, doing what I most enjoy, becoming better every day while I'm surrounded by people that I admire and respect. So that's what it is for me.
That is very awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, as we're heading down the home stretch, I wanted to thank you so much, Tim, for coming on today and sharing your story and your expert insight. So it was so great talking to you. And I wanted to ask, how can our listeners find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Douglas. The best place to go is our website at rialtomarketing.com, which is RIALTO marketing.com. I also put together just some special resources for your listeners. If they go to rialtomarketing.com / morning marketing machine, I'll give you that link. There's some free resources there that dig into those fundamentals that we've touched on in this conversation that I think would be super helpful.
Awesome, and definitely we'll have links for that as well. So everyone, I would say check it out. Obviously, he knows his stuff. He's been at it for a long time, and I'm sure you guys gained a lot from today. So thank you so much, and talk to everyone next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right.
Thanks. Take care.